Deep within the Demon Lord's castle lie the bodies of the dead members of the hero's party. One man is still alive and fighting for his survival. Meanwhile, the hero is fighting the Demon Lord. The demon grasps the king in his huge hand. He is about to crush the remaining hope of humanity. The man pleads for the demon to stop as he watches the hero slowly being squeezed to death. With his dying breath, the hero entrusted Mello to him, his son. The man screams as the hero is killed before him. With the death of the hero and his companions, humanity is defeated by the Demon King and their army claims the entire continent. After the war, the hero's right-hand man, the infamous swordsman, Gravel, vanishes without a trace. Then, 10 years later, in an unassuming town, the swordsman is found again in a junk shop. He is hammering a stool, fixing it for a neighbor. The man thanks him after receiving the fixed stool. He narrates that the old lady came home that morning and the first thing she did was hurl it his way. The infamous swordsman is now known as Soul and is living a very different life. He laughs at his neighbor's story, who looks for his little one. He shares that it's Mello's first day of school and he is about to pick her up. The neighbor comments that time flew fast, to which Soul agrees. Later, Soul is patiently waiting outside the school for Mello. Little kids run outside the moment the bell rang. Just then, Mello cheerfully greets him, announcing her arrival. She hugs Soul, and the man gently ruffles her hair. 3 kids tease her for being so close to the old man. However, she bluntly announces that she loves Soul, which flusters the kids. They call her weird and then leave them alone. She waves goodbye to them enthusiastically. Seeing her happy, he asks if she already made friends at school. The girl happily confirms, which puts the man at ease. They then start to walk home hand in hand. Just then, they hear a commotion and see a demon bullying a merchant. They refuse to pay for the goods they got and insist that they should get them for free since they are under the demon army's mercy. The monster grabs the man by his collar, who begs to be spared. Soul watches from the crowd, trying to hide his presence. He whispers to Mello that they should take a different route to avoid attention. However, to his shock, when he looks for her, she is no longer beside him. Mello gets the monster's attention and innocently asks him to put the man down, since it's bad to hurt others. Annoyed, the demon shifts his attention to her. He is about to hit her when Soul leaps with incredible speed and kneels before the demon, apologizing profusely. The demon refuses to forgive them, so he gives them money to appease them. He remains kneeling as they leave with his money. Soul sighs with relief when Mello asks why the demons hurt their friends. At school, her teacher taught them that it is bad to hurt others. Soul replies that they were just playing with Mr. Demon and turns the negative scenario into a positive one. After they help the merchant put his goods back in place, they continue their walk home. Soul has only one wish now, and that is for Mello to live a happy and peaceful life. The next day, the two go foraging in the forest. Mello is lost in her childish abandon and enjoys the flowers. Soul gently tells her to look for something edible too. She then finds a mandragora, and this time, Soul snaps, reiterating that she look for something edible they can eat. However, she fails to listen and keeps being distracted by different plants. The man can only sigh, silently contemplating that she cost him money after the trouble she caused, and now, they don't have enough money for their meal. Just then, the 2 demons from earlier appear and look for him, much to his shock. Acting all meek, he asks what they need from him. They tell him that they want to collect more money as an extra tax for their safety, then gesture to Mello. Soul is stupefied. The reckless move he made earlier backfired. He explains that money is scarce for them as well, and they have resorted to gathering wild plants to eat. As he begs for leniency, cheerful Mello comes running to them, recognizing the beasts from before. With a twinkle in her eyes, she asks them to play with her. Soul leaps from his position to save the girl, but the demon already gets a hold of her and slams her onto the ground with violent force. The impact causes an explosion, making Soul stop in his tracks. The beast smirks, seeing his pained reaction. He then tells Soul to clean up the corpse. However, to their utter surprise, Mello sits up with ease after the attack. Thinking that it's her turn now, she stands up and cleans off the dust on her knees. The monsters are confused as to why she is still alive when she declares that it's her turn to play now. Mello is fired up. Her eyes turn golden as a surge of energy flows around her. The monsters are shocked. Those eyes are familiar. 10 years ago, there was a tale known in the demon realm. A mighty hero fought against the Demon King, and they said he had a shining golden pair of eyes, just like the girl's. Realizing that she might be related to the hero, the beasts decide to report the incident to the Demon King. However, Soul steps in, grumbling that he doesn't have a choice now. Mello runs to him excitedly, saying that demons are such amazing creatures. The man smiles at her and then smacks the back of her head, making her sleep. One beast is about to unsheath his sword, but Soul beats him to it with incredible speed. In just a snap, he manages to annihilate the beast. The other tries to escape and demands to know his identity. Refusing to let their secret be known, he resolves to wipe out the demon as well. He starts by slashing his hand. The monster shrieks in pain. Soul apologizes, saying he'll return his hand. However, his sword finishes the beast instead. Later, Mello opens her eyes and is confused as to where they are. Soul tells her that she got tired from playing and suddenly fell asleep. She asks about her demon playmates earlier. Soul replies that the beasts had to go early, but thank her for playing with them. The girl beams with delight upon hearing this. As they walk home, she remembers the wild plants, but Soul tells her not to mind them. Mello seems agitated and restless at the dining table. She barely touched her food, which is so unlikely of her. Soul notices this and asks if she is okay since she usually cleans her plate. She assures him that all is fine and she's just full. After promising to finish her meal later, she then rushes outside with her plate, excited to play. Soul is left at the table, feeling confused as to why she's rushing. Outside, Mello approaches the bushes and carefully crawls on her knees and offers a creature her leftover meal. The creature growls at her and then proceeds to bite her arm down. Even though she winces in pain, she tries to calm her pet, Gabu, and promises to protect him. She gently shows him that the sandwich is safe to eat. The creature finally backs down and then proceeds to gobble up the sandwich. As she watches him eat, she realizes that she must find a good place to hide Gabu, or else Soul will discover him. Just then, the man appears behind her, much to her shock. Soul looks at the creature she was hiding and scrutinizes the odd creature. He tells her that it isn't simply a dog but a beast that will eventually grow huge. It will cost a fortune to feed it, and they don't have enough resources for an additional mouth to feed. She insists on keeping Gabu, even offering to split her share of food with her pet. Soul reasons that she can't keep the creature for long anyway, and so it's better to dispose of it now. They have a stare down, and the girl starts to quiver, about to cry. Eventually, Soul gives up and lets her keep Gabu. Later, Mello and Soul pull together a cart full of produce. The man reminds her that if she wants to keep her pet, she must learn how to earn its meals. She enthusiastically agrees and promises to feed Gabu. Just then, a man in a cloak runs toward them and grabs apples. Soul looks at the man and then to the little girl, telling her that no matter what job she takes, she must give it her all. As a sample, he removes his boots and throws them at the thief. He reiterates to Mello that they must always deliver the goods in exact numbers, otherwise, their pay will be deducted. So, she must treat each piece of produce as gold. Mello agrees, and they continue to pull the cart. Just then, beasts of the demon army approach them and eye their cart. They demand to check their cart since there are rumors of bandits hoarding weapons against the Demon King. Mello argues that they are apples and not weapons. Frantically, Soul covers her mouth to stop her from talking recklessly. He then humbly explains that they are couriers from the orchard and they need to deliver the produce before sunset. The demons accuse them of being rude and insolent against the demon army. They assume that the apples must be poisoned. One of them decides to dispose of them and begins crushing one apple after another. Soul grits his teeth in frustration. They are just being picked on since the beasts are bored during their patrol. Annoyed, Mello tells them that they should not waste food. Angered, the beasts prepare to attack the kid to teach her some manners. However, before the strike could even land, Gabu leaps and sinks his teeth into the beast. In retaliation, it grabs Gabu and smashes the little thing on the ground with violent force. Mello freezes in shock while looking at her pet unmoving on the ground. She then runs to Gabu and gently picks him up. She envelops him in a warm embrace and cries for her pet. In between sobs, she calls the beast cruel and vile for hurting the creature. Naturally, the demons laugh at her for being a softie. In anger, she unconsciously activates her power, declaring that she won't forgive the two. Seeing her triggered, Soul panics and tries to calm her down. But it is too late now, since she has awakened her power and is ready to exact revenge for her beloved pet. The two beasts are shocked by her transformation, wondering if she is a beast herself. Mello looks at Gabu again and recalls their happy memories together. She had promised to protect him but ultimately failed, and now, the demons must pay. With her activated power, she unleashes an attack toward the beasts, but Soul prevents her from doing so. With anger still visible in her eyes, she tells her master to move. He tries to calm her down, but she refuses, determined to make the two pay for killing her pet. She then unleashes rapid and successive attacks, which Soul blocks. He screams for her to stop and calm down. She recalls that when she met Gabu, the creature was covered in wounds. She was playing inside the forest, and then accidentally found Gabu hiding behind the thick bushes. She felt extreme pity for the helpless creature and decided to take care of him. However, she failed and blames herself for what happened to Gabu. Uncontrollable tears flow down her face, and she directs her anger at the two demons. She unleashes more of her power and attempts to finish the two enemies again. Sol then realizes something and jumps after Mello, telling her frantically that Gabu is still alive. Her fists suspend in the air upon hearing this. Sol tells her that she needs to take her pet to the doctor in the next town. With her speed, she can take him there to save his life. This calms her down, and she looks at Gabu still lying on the ground. She then sees him move ever so slightly, and rushes to his side. The pet immediately whimpers, and she lights up seeing him alive. She turns to her master, who urges her to deliver the pet to the nearest doctor. Not wanting to waste time, she uses her super speed and rushes to the nearest town. With this, the two demons sigh a breath of relief, grateful that they're alive after the confrontation with the kid. However, they aren't truly saved yet. Sol steps in and stretches his arms. He remarks that when something important to her gets hurt, she often loses control. She's actually a very kind kid and too precious for this world, so he has to do the dirty work and kill for her. One of the beasts steps back and is about to unsheath his sword when Sol beats him to it and points the weapon at him instead. He recalls his past with the hero, thinking that his daughter really took after him. He takes the sword in his hands and walks toward his opponents. Meanwhile, in the demon castle, the demon king is playing a game of chess. She summons her special auditor, Claude, to conduct an investigation about a string of disappearances in their forces. The loyal servant heeds her command and swears to act on it immediately. Claude arrives at the town of Howell at the command of the demon king to investigate the disappearances in their force. She recalls her conversation with the demon king that every missing person vanished while on duty was with a partner and never alone. With this, she has to investigate the mysterious disappearances. She walks around the town and observes that it wasn't in its glorious state before. It used to be a thriving trade city and rivaled the holy capital in prosperity. Taxes are properly collected and delivered to headquarters, so there are no issues about it. Many of the missing seem to be from the garrison, so she decides to start the investigation from their military base in the town. Just then, she hears children being bullied by some demons. They spat at the loud kids running around. Instead of being scared, Mello annoys the demons, and her playmate tries to warn her. Claude observes the situation unfold and notices that a lot of rough lizardmen are there. If she recalls, the garrison's commander serves directly under Colonel Dawn. She worries that this kind of scuffle happens often. Just then, Sol interjects and rescues the kids from harm. He stretches a smile and pleads that the demons forgive the kids, promising to discipline them properly. As this unfolds, Claude still observes the situation. Sol continues to beg and even goes down on his knees in front of the demons. Clueless, Mello looks at her friend and asks if the demon is harmful. The kid can only scream at her helpless, naive friend. Claude doesn't agree with how the demons act around humans. She doesn't appreciate it when soldiers abuse their power and wreak havoc around every town. 10 years ago, when humanity lost to the Demon King, the world turned around completely, and no one can stop it now. The beast declares that he will forgive the man and the kids for interrupting his day, but as compensation, he will take his arm. The beast raises its sword and is about to strike Sol, when Claude interferes and slashes the monster instead. It happens so quickly that both the beast and Sol are shocked. Sol hugs the children away from the horrifying sight. He turns to the girl, who only declares that she can't just ignore the blatant destruction of mere lowly demons of the Demon Lord's properties. The other lizardmen are all stunned by her appearance. She then reveals that she is the special auditor of the Demon Lord's army, and she has come to investigate the reported missing cases of demons in the town. The lizardmen are incredulous that a special auditor is a human. Sensing their doubts on her, she unsheaths her sword and challenges them to a fight. Insulted, the demons draw out their weapons as well and lunge at her. Just then, a superior lizardman arrives and announces that a message from the headquarters arrived that they should cooperate with the special auditor. The commander then smiles at her and apologizes for the insolence of his subordinates. He then offers to lend his resources and help in any way he can in her investigation. With dangerous eyes, she instructs them to stay out of the investigation, and she'll contact them herself if she needs assistance. The commander starts to walk away with his subordinate, but she calls him back and tosses in his direction the severed hand of his subordinate. He calmly catches the hand and turns to walk away but grits his teeth in anger. He swears to make her pay for her arrogance. Mello walks up to her looking so impressed by what she did. Her little friend, Nico, joins as well and blurts out that she's awesome for defeating the soldiers from the Demon King's army. Sol thanks her as well for saving them from trouble. She smiles at him and states that she is simply doing her duty. Confused, she asks why he didn't run earlier. If she was just a moment late, he would have been cut down. Plus, he didn't even flinch at the sight of a sword coming in his direction. Nervous, Sol tries to downplay what happened and just claims that he mentally blacked out. He was so timid that fear overwhelmed him and he froze in place. She finds his behavior strange. Just then, Mello notices that Gabu is running in her direction. Her pet is now visibly well and recovered. Seeing a demon beast loose in the city, she instinctively draws out her sword and attempts to protect everyone from it. However, to her surprise, Sol easily prevents her from attacking. They watch as Mello plays with Gabu. The man explains that it's his student's pet, much to the surprise of Claude. Moreover, she is more surprised by his ability to stop her sword without even blinking. She wonders who could be this man. Later, Sol is offering Claude a glass of water. Mello was so pushy about inviting her to their house, and now he has nothing to offer her but drinking water. She has no problems with it and states that interacting with citizens is a part of her work. She scans the house and focuses on the kids' toys. Mello then slides a bucket of cookies in her direction. She pauses for a while and then enthusiastically blurts out how delicious the cookies are. Sol shares that they were given by the neighbor next door. She then takes a bite and comments that it is kind of dry. Mello and Gabu are expecting that she'll like it. Seeing the enthusiastic look on her face, she is about to give back the cookie, but Mello insists, saying that she wants to share it with her. With this, she decides to split the cookie in half. With a huge smile on her face, she suggests that they eat it together. In this way, it will even taste better. Mello accepts the cookie wholeheartedly and even shares it with Gabu. Claude watches her and recalls something from her past, her own sister smiling back at her while eating her favorite sandwich. She controls her emotions and suddenly rises from her seat. She announces that she needs to go since she still has leftover jobs that she needs to finish. They see her off with Mello happily waving at her goodbye. Little do they know, a presence is looking at them from a distance, smirking. Back in town, Claude begins her investigation about the possible deserters. She interviews different people but feels like she isn't making any progress at all. She sits by a bench, thinking of what steps she should take next. Just then, a kid runs in her direction and throws a rock. She tries to warn the kid that what he's doing is dangerous. In that moment, the boy's mother apologizes profusely to her, begging to let her son off the hook. Since he is just a kid, he doesn't know any better and just hated the Demon King's army. She wears the crest of the demon army, and therefore, this made her an enemy. The kid's father was killed by a demon, and so he naturally loathes everyone in the demon's army. Because she is a human, many call her traitor for serving the Demon King. They ask her if she doesn't feel ashamed at all for betraying her race. She then kneels down before the kid and apologizes to him for frightening him. The boy demands that they bring back his father, but Claude can only look at him with empathetic eyes, understanding his pain. Meanwhile, in his workshop, Sol is having a hard time fixing a broken chair. It looks beyond repair, but still he will give it a try. Just then, Claude arrives and asks what he is doing. Sol just casually replies that Mello is currently at school. She is confused about his work since the sign out front said that it was a junk shop. Sol confirms, saying that he fixes broken things or refurbishes junk to sell. She doubts that he is really a repairman since his job doesn't explain how he managed to block her sword the other day. She then reveals that there has been a problem with the demon's army in their area and asks what he knows about it. However, instead of cooperating, he flatly declines her. She understands his decision and tells him that it was a wise one. Just then, they hear a strange noise from the backyard. They go over to investigate and find a letter along with the crest of the Demon King's army. Sol quickly grabs the letter and reads it while Claude runs in his direction. The man opens it and is shocked when he reads that Mello was kidnapped by unnamed men and that he needs to come to the old ruin alone and unarmed. Both of them are shocked about Mello's capture. Claude meanwhile bursts out and has taken out her frustration on Sol's junk shop shed. She apologizes to him since they got involved because of her and promises to help him retrieve his child. Sol clarifies that he is not Mello's father, which surprises Claude. He adds that even though the child is not his, she is the precious thing that he vowed to protect. She is utterly stunned to see him holding a sword, for she didn't see him drawing it out from her scabbard. He ignores her question and reminds her that they should not carry any weapons for Mello's safety. She agrees and they make their way to where the child is. Later, they are welcomed by the commander who ordered the capture of Mello. Angered, she spits at him for skimming off taxes and then involving an innocent child in their conflict. He smirks at her and calls her a dog for putting her nose where it doesn't belong. It will never be acceptable for him that she won the favor of the Majesty because of her swordsmanship. He then raises his weapon against the kid. He mocks Claude for always thinking highly of herself when she is just a human. No matter what efforts she did, she will always be inferior to them, so she must not be arrogant. The child wails uncontrollably, his fear taking over. The two adults are shocked that it wasn't Mello after all but her friend, Nico. They look at each other, confused. They realize that demons can't tell human children apart, just like how humans have difficulty in telling demons apart. Even so, it is still dangerous for a human child. She steps up and states that she left her weapon behind, so he should hand over the child so they can talk. However, The commander just smirks and tells her that he will hand over the kid when she's dead. With this, the other lizardmen lunge in her direction. She urges Soul to go find Mello while she deals with the enemies. With determination, he leaps in the beast's direction and smoothly dodges their attacks. She then retaliates and gives them hits, however this isn't enough to bring them down. After withstanding all of their attacks, she still holds her ground strong and unyielding. This phases the beasts, shocked by how strong a mere human is. The commander calls them useless fools for not being able to defeat one human. He threatens Mello and uses the little kid to scare her. But to his surprise, Soul manages to rescue the boy without being detected. Claude is just as shocked as the commander as she thought that he already left to find Mello. He then tosses a sword in her direction and tells her to end it quickly. Enraged, the commander leaves his throne and comes running at Claude. One of the fallen soldiers catches her leg, which momentarily phases her. Because of this, she barely blocks the attack. The commander laughs at her struggle, saying that she will never match his brute strength, and orders her to die. Claude resists the attack and holds her place. Just then, Soul comes to her rescue and kills the beast in one strike. She is surprised that he managed to strike the beast from his distance. Since the commander is down, the other lizardmen attempt to escape, but she doesn't give them a chance and finishes every last one of them. She is about to confront him about his power, but he declares that they are late for their pickup. Later, while they are rushing, Claude apologizes again for having them involved with her mess and with the demon army. Soul insists that it's not her fault, and what's important is that the kid is safe. Claude still feels burdened by the thought, and so to make her feel better, he tells her that it was a great help that he was able to get the goons off his back. However, the intensity of his stare changes and reveals that he knows that she is part of the demon army. She recalls the Demon King's words to her, and her mission of investigating the missing cases among the demons. She is about to explain herself when he tosses a hammer in her direction. In a serious tone, he tells her that she must fix the lumber shed she destroyed earlier. After she fixes it, they can call it even and be on their way. They finally arrive at the town where Mello and the kid's mother are both waiting. The kid's eyes light up upon seeing her master carrying her sleeping friend. He apologizes to her for getting late. Nico's mother embraces him so tight and feels relieved after seeing her child safe. She asks where they found the boy. Soul explains that some demon squadrons turned on each other over embezzled tax money. He then gestures to Claude and introduces her as the auditor who rescued him while putting down the scuffle. She then realizes that he wants her to report the incident to the headquarters. She wonders just who he really is. As a fellow swordsman, she ought to know his real identity, and she will find out. Soul is rushing while carrying Mello on his back. They are late for school, and he reprimands the girl for not watching the clock in the morning. While calmly eating her breakfast, she tells him that her school is only until lunch. Annoyed, he tells her that she could have told him sooner, since he can only keep the shop open for 4 hours and will lose income again. Her face lights up when she sees Claude waiting for them. The woman greets them. Meanwhile, Soul wonders why the auditor is there again. They were already even after the incident yesterday, and that means that she doesn't have business with him anymore. He wonders if this is a scheme by the demon's army. In a hurry, he walks past her, but she grabs his hand and stops him from going. In a surprising turn of events, she looks at him flustered and pleads with him to let her stay in town. Soul is confused, while Mello is thrilled that she will be coming to their house. She tells him that because of what happened to the commander, she was punished along with other officers. Because of this, she has no place to stay in. She had been ordered to stay as an overseer until a new commander arrives, but as an auditor, she needs to maintain a certain distance from common soldiers. She has nowhere to go, and so staying with them is the best idea for now. However, he finds this a hassle, and so suggests that she go to the military camp instead. She refuses since she hates getting cold, and it will hinder her mission. Since this is not his problem anymore, he walks past her. Desperate, she offers to pay him a generous amount in exchange for her lodging. This makes the man stop in his tracks and consider her proposal. In his mind, money outweighs hassle. Plus, she is making a desperate face. Mello also pleads with him to let the woman stay. With this, he sighs and agrees, but tells her that she can only use one corner of his house. She can't believe that he agrees with the arrangement. He bids goodbye to her first since he has to drop Mello off at school. She is careful that she gets to stay with him. She is an auditor to the demon's army, but this is something that she must do for herself. Later, in his workshop, he tells her that she should use the back room for sleeping, and he will be working in his workshop whole day. He then asks about the new commander that will be assigned in their area. She claims that she hasn't met the person yet, but heard that they are of high rank. She quietly contemplates that the man's distrust of the demon army seems deep. Soul apologizes for prying, but he notices that she only brought a wooden sword with her, and so it means that she isn't thinking of hurting them. She is shocked that he notices that easily. With this, she reveals that she wants to spar and train with him. She then unsheaths her wooden sword. As an auditor, she must know the secret behind his strength. She is dying of curiosity and wants to test the limit of her skills with him. He scratches his head and agrees with her proposition. She immediately lights up upon hearing this, but Soul declares that if he wins, she will have to do whatever he wants. She looks at her determined face and smiles, agreeing to his condition. She accepts the deal and states that a swordsman never backs down from their word. Gabu crawls out from his hideout in this awkward moment and eyes the two warriors, who now stand face to face, resolute on defeating the other. The two then leap at the same time, and their weapons clash. Claude finds her momentum and starts attacking her opponent in successive rapid hits. However, Soul just effortlessly blocks all of them and strikes her with his wooden sword. She manages to block this, but he unleashes a barrage of attacks in her direction. Every strike feels like being hit by a hammer, and she must step back for a moment. She creates a safe distance between them to stop him from taking advantage. She then smirks, asking if he is holding back against her. He replies that he is merely training with her, so there is no need to get serious. She lunges at him but is surprised that he vanished. To her utter surprise, he is already standing behind her and has his weapon pointing at her nape. With this, she surrenders, frustrated with herself that she can't even raise her sword against him. He lets out a menacing smile. Now, they must talk about their deal. Later, Claude is walking in town with Gabu. The people are looking at her, recognizing her as part of the demon's army. She recalls that all Soul wanted from her was to pick up Mello from school and take Gabu for a walk. She can tell from their fight that he is far more superior than he let on. The strength he has is not something that one acquires from training alone. She is sure of it, but where did he exactly train? She finally picks up Mello from school. She expresses regret to be the one picking up the child since she must find it unpleasant. However, Mello tells her that she's happy to see her. With a face beaming with joy, she expresses that she loves walking home with her master, but with Claude, she feels like she suddenly got a mother. Flustered, the auditor averts her gaze from her. With this, she asks why she isn't calling Soul Papa. She explains that she isn't allowed to call him that since she has a different father. Although they have been living all this time, he makes it clear to her that he isn't her father. He is just someone there to ensure that she is protected and happy. Claude then remembers Soul's words to her about him not being the father of the kid. She wonders what happened to Mello's parents and what connection they have with Soul. As time goes by, she can't help but get more curious about the man's real identity. She then notices him quietly observing them while carrying logs for fire. With a quick stride, he closes their gap and grabs her by the collar, enraged that she is prying into their business. He warns her about getting nosy and threatens to kick her out. He then orders Mello to get more firewood, but she refuses to do so. He repeats his command, telling her that he is counting on her. He then goes back to the house and contemplates his action, asking himself if what he is doing is right. He flashbacks to a moment from his past, remembering Mello's mother, Rena. 10 years ago, when he was still living as the hero's right-hand man, Gravel, Soul had a family. Rena, the mage, was sitting by the window. Her baby bump was very obvious now. Dion, the hero, was so excited about their baby. He thought it was a miracle that they were given such a precious blessing, and asked his friend, Gravel, about his opinion. Young Soul agreed, but told him that it took a lot of nerve for him to make a baby in their situation. Sulking, Rena apologized for causing trouble, but Dion assured her that he wanted a baby a long time ago. Soul called him reckless for his action. Just when they were about to defeat the demon's army, he backed down and went back to his wife because he got her pregnant, which wasn't ideal for their situation right now. Their other two members tried to manage him, saying that the two were married anyway, so what's the fuss all about? Emma, the archer, remembered the moment when Dion proposed to Rena while covered in the Demon King's general's blood, while Kodo, the priest, was simply delighted to officiate and having witnessed the wedding. He sighed and called his party foolish for being so upbeat in the middle of a long-standing war. They were so happy about the marriage and pregnancy in the middle of a dangerous journey. With zero remorse, the hero pointed out that they made it that far and that was enough. Finally, having had enough, Rena shouted at him for always being spiteful ever since they had met. Soul smirked, remarking that the rich girl finally showed her true colors. Insulted, she spat at him for calling her that and refused to be treated that way by her husband's childhood friend. She insisted that they get this done with and just say whatever he wanted to say to her. They continued their exchange of spiteful words. No one wanted to back down. Dion tried to extinguish the fire, pointing out to his wife that if Soul didn't travel with him, maybe they wouldn't get to know each other because he would have stayed in their village his whole life. And without Rena, they wouldn't have a brilliant mage in their party and someone to call a wife. So, without both of them, his life would be incomplete. They were equally precious to him, so he really wanted them to get along. Grumbling, they apologized to each other, and the three warriors were all amused. Emma then asked about the baby's name. Rina revealed that they wanted to name their daughter Mello, which shocked Sol. Emma commented that it was such a cute name. Rina added that Dion picked the name out. Sol elbowed Dion for giving the name he gave his turtle years ago to his child. When they were still children, the two of them picked up a turtle and Sol gave it the name Mello since turtles were supposed to live a long life and came from the word million. He told his best friend not to name his child after a turtle even though it was meant to be good luck. He sighed again and couldn't believe how eccentric his friend was. Dion placed his arm over his shoulder and told him that he had always wanted to make him the baby's godfather. To him, Sol was his best friend and family. They had always been doing things together, and just knowing that he would be present in his baby's life was also enough to put him at ease. He smiled at him and reminded him to never tell Rina about Mello's name because she would kill him. However, he genuinely believed that it was a lovely name. Those were the happy moments they lived in. Maybe during those moments, they really wanted to believe that they could live a normal life like the others. A happy and bright life with a gift of friendship and family, but they didn't know it yet at that time that everything would shatter into pieces, and what true despair really felt like. The night before the final battle, Sol was on the shore, training as hard as he always does. Listening to the waves and exhausting his body, he manages to calm himself down before the eventful tomorrow. A few hours ago in their home, the swordsman hears Dion from outside, saying he's going to be away for quite a while this time. In fact, their child might already be born by the time he comes back. Sitting quietly with his Rina, they think about that possibility. The look on his face makes her worry, but he just vows to do his best, for his child and everyone else. He didn't really understand what it meant to be a hero before. Now, the purpose and responsibilities that come with it couldn't be clearer. Sol listened to this sincere and hopeful conversation. Now, he grips his sword tight to continue training, not understanding why a child was so special to his friends. Morning came and a lot of people gathered at the entrance of the village. While the hero party and the villagers said goodbye to each other, wishing each other safety, Rina spotted Sol stoically standing far away. Hearing her call to him, he sighs and wonders if she's going to give him another lecture. She asks him to look after Dion, but he argues that the hero is the type to handle things alone. She clings to him this time, basically begging the swordsman. Given the desperation in her eyes, he says he will, adding that he's known his friend longer than she has anyway. If possible, she would have wanted to join them until the very end, telling her to do as she wants. Sol says she can just catch up to them once the child is born. His uncharacteristically kind words make her tear up, allowing her to finally bid her friends farewell on their final journey. Emma and Kodo hope for the baby to be born healthy and can't wait to meet them. Meanwhile, the swordsman was walking silently behind the group. Dion asks if he's lonely without Rina, as he now has no one to fight with. While he doesn't mind, the soon-to-be father seemed too fine for someone leaving. He doesn't deny it, saying his child will have a peaceful world to live in once he returns. After all, that's what he's looking forward to. It's quite the optimistic view on life, but the whole family having a picnic without worrying about monsters, spreading out a lunch, and playing in the river would be a dream. It doesn't even have to be said, but Sol is going to be on that picnic with them. He's family too, after all. The swordsman skeptically stares at his friend, but can't stop the light feeling in his heart as Dion joyfully skips forward, dreaming of the day. Giving in, he follows them with the same dream. 42 days later, they were at the Demon King's throne room. Sol panted hard from exhaustion. On the other hand, Emma and Kodo were on the ground, already dead. He faced the Demon King in front of him, questioning what was happening. As the enemy smiled, Dion called from behind, telling him not to lose focus amid it all. Together, they charged in as the final hope of humanity, but it was all child play to the overwhelming power of the Demon King. Sol is literally flicked away and sent crashing around with a single finger. Half alive, he sees a broken sword clatter to the ground and looks up to find his best friend in the demon's clutches. Dion was being lifted helplessly, unable to do anything. The swordsman is then told to watch closely, as their last glimmer of hope is crushed. In this moment, their memories together flash by. From the time they named the turtles, to the day Rina begged him to take care of her husband, they were happy and loved each other above all. Now, all of that shatters into pieces. Dion flashes his best friend with one last smile, right before Sol's eyes and ears are traumatized with the moment his body is crushed. The Demon King's castle echoed with pained screams. Dion is forced to watch as his poor friend's corpse was dropped to the ground. His vision started to get blurry. Just around 12 minutes after the battle with the Demon Lord began, the hero died. While humanity's greatest enemy smiled, Sol grit his teeth and cursed him. His eyes were tearing up with grief and rage. A new surge of power burst out from his body, and he took the hero's broken blade, encasing it with that same raw and raging power. The Lord is intrigued by the unexpected development, more so when the swordsman disappears from his sight. He charged in with speed unlike any of them exhibited earlier. What comes next is supposed to be a killing blow, but the demon merely raised a barrier to block it. Soul continued, shredding the cloth on his arm with the sheer energy from his blade. Unfortunately, this still isn't enough and he's easily sent back. He isn't done yet. Shooting a magic blast forward, he manages to gain some cover and rebound from the fall to burst right through the smoke of the explosion. With another thrust, he finally reaches the demon lord's body, and she's equally surprised by the unbridled and unexpected power. Yet the human had no intention of listening to any of her words. Set on vanquishing her once and for all, he pours everything into this last strike, not even caring about what comes next. It connects. With a brilliant flash of light, the Demon King's body explodes, and it seems like humanity has finally emerged as the victor. Nonetheless, Soul was on the ground, again watching as the fallen hero's sword clattered down. He remembers everyone he fought with and tears up, feeling like it was finally over. However, he suddenly hears the Lord's voice, commending him for doing his best. The evil presence embraced him, holding his hand and speaking about how a child like him wielded the holy sword. Told that he was too reckless, he's encouraged to be smarter next time. All Soul could do was turn his head at the enemy who was still alive. He's a baby who's just learned to stand and wishes to be praised by his parents. To fix that, she'll be as strict as necessary. She needs him to grow much stronger after all. The presence smothering him lets go. Once he turns around, he sees that the Demon King's body has fully regenerated. He could feel her gaze. While questioning how it was possible, she raised her arm above his body, and he finally realized that there was no way to win. His vision turns black, and in his mind, he hears her voice, telling him, her little one, to grow stronger for when they meet again. Soul's eyes opened and his entire body jolted up. Instead of the Demon King's castle, he was in a beautiful and green plain, still alive, despite the merciless battle. Looking around and questioning where he was, he hears someone nearby, telling him to get out of there while he still can. The demons are said to be marching toward the capital at that very moment. With terrified and hopeless faces, they announce that it's already over for this country. Their words hit Soul. The enemies were about to reach the capital, meaning they've already passed where Rina was supposed to be safely hiding. He ran as fast as possible, but the village was already in smoke when he arrived. Buildings were wrecked, corpses were littered, and the handful of survivors were mourning in the rain. While desperately looking around, the swordsman hears that the capital that had fallen. They blamed the heroes who lost so easily, even after all the hope they gave the people. While rushing through the debris, he hears their insults and painful words. While passing by Ali, he hears someone call his name. It's Rina, still alive, despite everything that happened. He ran to her, glad that she was all okay, and was surprised to see a baby Mello cradled in her arms. Carrying her child, Rina warmly praises Soul for coming back alive. He asks what happened so far, and what she was doing there. Targeting the hero's kin, the Demon Lord's army attacked the village. In other words, the village was completely ravaged. The swordsman banged his hand on the wall in fury. It's like everything they've done so far was all for nothing. Seeing his anger, she apologizes, as all she could do was save her child. Despite being a member of their party, she failed to do anything when it mattered. Feeling the same way, he cursed himself. The image of Dion's smile before he died was still burning in his mind, and he hated that he was the only one who came back. Rina asks what happened to her beloved husband. Met with silence and a tremble of anger, she understands. As tears run down her face, she empathizes with how he's carrying the burden of surviving alone. Dion always considered him a part of their family. With that said, even if it's a bit selfish of her, she asks that he take care of Mello. He's stunned by the request and is hit with the heavy reality. Their moment was interrupted as someone spoke from the entrance, holding Rina's poster. Turning, they see a couple of demons, who have just confirmed that a baby of the hero was indeed born. It will be troublesome if they leave things like this. Soul gets ready for a fight. This time, he's going to protect his family for sure. One demon is left to take care of both of them, while he reports the information to the Demon Lord. A small blast hits the demon that was leaving, stopping him in his tracks. It came from Rina, who was now standing and telling the swordsman to take Mello and go. He says he'll handle the demons, and that she can stay put, but finally sees the fatal injury on her body. Her face was pale as she begged him to go. Soul turns grim as he realizes that he was too late, and that she didn't have long anyway. Since he's the only one who knows of the child, she asks him to protect her son. The young man does as told, and takes the sleeping baby into his arms, barely stopping himself from crying and cursing. With one last look at her beloved family, the mother turns to the demons and puts herself between them. One of the enemies charged in, refusing to let such important targets get away, but she wasn't going to allow him to disturb them. With amazing agility, she leapt above the demon and unleashed an explosion. Despite himself, Soul could only run as fast as he could. There was no longer a need to fight the demon army. All Rina could want for her child is to live happily and smile. She asks him to make such a world for Mello. With a tearful smile, the mage wraps the demon in chains of light, ready to do everything she can to stop them from reporting to the Demon King. However, the second one suddenly impaled her chest with his spear. He laughed, but not for long, as the same chains latched onto his body. Rina was going to make sure that the existence of the hero's child remains hidden. Her body sparked and flashed violently. Although Soul called out, there was nothing he could do. She explodes, taking the demons out with her. On that day, Rina, the mage of the hero's party, and the hero's wife, died with self-destruct magic. A while later, the swordsman sat amid the ruins of the city. A fly demon notices him, and the baby cradles in his arms. It flies away to report to the demon lord, but gets blasted mid-air by Soul's magic. Just then, he sees a lizard on the ground and picks it up. For a moment, he remembers the encounter with the Demon King, and blinks to find the lizard on the ground. The only thing left in his fingers was its tail. Like the lizard, this is how the enemy survived. He can't help but laugh hopelessly at the persistence. Hearing Mello whine and feeling her move, he fixes the position of her arms to stop her from crying. Unfortunately, neither mom nor dad were there anymore. As such, the child's little hand holds onto his finger instead, making the grieving young man cry under the rain. Dion's last words to him was a request to take care of his daughter, and it was the same with Rina. They both did this with a smile, and now, he can only do exactly as they say. Soul cried out, vowing to protect Mello, and to never let the Demon King or her army know about her. As Dion found his purpose of heroism in his child, Soul realizes that this is the reason he survived alone. Caressing and hugging the little one, he promises to teach him the skills needed to live a happy life. On that day, he decided to dedicate the remainder of his stubborn life to the future of the baby. Like the lizard separating its tail, he lets go of his life as a warrior to survive. In the demon office of the city, an officer Sasa goes over Claude, taking it upon herself to the former commander and several soldiers in the area. This is what the report says. In effect, her original purpose of investigating the missing soldiers has not progressed. She's asked if this is indeed what happened. While the image of Soul flashes in her mind, she confirms it and offers her apology. From that moment on, command and jurisdiction is transferred over to Colonel Balam. Her fate will be decided eventually, but for now, the auditor is formally introduced to the colonel and told to listen to his words. With worry in her heart, she looked up at him. To her surprise, he snapped his fingers to turn on the lights, revealing a bright room. The new commander laughed in hopes of easing the stiff attitude of everyone there. His demeanor takes Claude by surprise. In contrast, he's already heard about her, and how she's a highly respected officer in the headquarters. He's also read her report, and knows that the former commander embezzled too playfully. Simply put, her actions were fairly justified. The auditor is stunned again. Sasa pushes for a punishment, but Balam hates that kind of spectacle, and wants to get along. Besides, he likes humans and dreams of a world where humans and demons live in peace. His words are shady to say the least. Just then, he calls for someone named Vine. A bright voice comes from outside, and they find a young demon girl jumping across the room to answer his call. Like a good girl, she announces herself and responds as soon as she's called for. Balam introduces her as his daughter. As she's been sheltered all her life, he wants her to stretch her wings in a brand new environment. Additionally, he believes she'll be of use to the auditor's original reason for coming there. Wondering what he means by this, Claude is told that there was an old and similar case, which turned out to be the work of a hero. Over 10 years ago, soldiers began vanishing without a trace. As heroes are said to come from ordinary humans, he suggests that a new one has appeared. She couldn't believe it, but he reveals that Vine already sensed something similar the moment they entered the city. The girl confirms it. Apparently, she has the unique ability to detect the strange scent that heroes have. It's an incredibly pungent smell, and she hates it very much. Her father hugs and praises her for feeling this way towards the race that slaughtered their own. If humans and demons are to live in peace, then there's no place for heroes to exist. This very ideal was being indoctrinated into the child. Noticing Claude staring at her, Vine smiles and proudly states that she can find the heroes faster than her. She gets to work and heads out without waiting for the order. Her father finds this eagerness endearing, but Balan reminds the auditor that she still needs to continue with her investigation. Wanting to learn more about the city, he reaches out, saying he looks forward to working together. The inspector accepts it. She thinks about how a hero could be there, and thinks about Soul. In the middle of the town, people scream in surprise as they see Vine running and leaping fast. It's as if she could see and smell the scent of light nearby. After a while, she locates the disgusting scent on the outskirts of a forest. She leaps in to finally find the hero, and is surprised as she's met with the sight of Gabu, barking at her for pinning Mello to the ground. The child looked at her, confused, and the demon was just as equally perplexed. Vine pounced on Mello, thinking she's the hero, but the foul smell had suddenly disappeared. She moved her head around, looking for the trace that vanished into thin air. Unfortunately, all the movement makes the child under her laugh from being tickled. Misunderstanding, the demon tells her to stop laughing at her, but this isn't the case. Since she doesn't seem to get it, Mello reverses their positions and pins her down this time. Vine finds herself in a fit of giggles. She pushes the joyful child away, considering things even. Calling him weird, she tries to set the tone and present herself as someone great, but the girl just sees this as an opportunity to introduce themselves to each other. Moving on, she smelled around again, not understanding why the strong scent disappeared. Her father praised her ability of discerning the smell and presence of the wretched heroes. To help everyone, the young demon was encouraged to use that gift for their kind. She hugged him tightly, promising to do as told, but now her nose is suddenly interrupted by the smell of a cookie. Mello raised the biscuit to the demon's nose and, seeing her confusion, explains that she and Gabu were having a snack battle. There isn't a lot, but she offers to share the delicious treats. Vine is baffled at first, but no amount of refusal could convince the small one to go away. As such, she takes a bite. Soul walked around, loudly calling to the child and her pet. It wasn't the best time to wander around, especially with the new commander arriving that day. He hears a familiar and troublemaking voice nearby, and spots the shrub where the small group is hiding. Mello brightly greets him, but to his surprise, there was an unfamiliar face there. While Vine is confused as she calls him teacher, he's also stunned to see a demon so close. Just then, a dark realization hits when he sees her entire form. In front of him was a chimera. She got up all of a sudden and flew to the sky, saying she's heading home and leaving without another word. Mello stared and cheered as she saw her new friend's pretty figure, waved while asking to play again sometime soon. In contrast to her gleeful cries, Soul's eyes were sharp, wary of the being that just came into their lives. Unaware of the danger, the girl happily introduced her, but he couldn't believe that they're friends. After all, he had a terrible encounter with chimeras 10 years ago. Almost 2 years into their mission, the heroes' party battled against the chimera on the Fortress of Three Heads. Children, stitched up and mindlessly moving, lunged at them with inhuman bodies. It was becoming difficult to keep up, and they had to rely on each other to have their backs. That said, there was no time for gratitude. Still in battle, Soul asked the priest if he could handle the victims. Kodo tried all he could with his abilities, but it was impossible, even with holy magic, to turn back those who had already been defiled. As Dion grit his teeth in anger, a voice spoke, saying human sorcery can't undo such power. They looked up to the sky and saw the culprit behind it all. Leaping towards him in anger, Rina unleashed a raging fire serpent spell, which sped towards the target who was idly sitting nearby. Despite the strength of the magic, the demon smiled and, barely moving his hand, completely negated the spell. He was a despicable being, who used human children as cores to make mindless chimera soldiers. In tears, she questions how he could do something so vile. Balan smiled as he looked down at the pathetic humans. He's giving them the strength they'll never have, because he likes them so much. Calling him cruel was insulting, especially considering how he gave them power, and they're trying to kill the children. In this situation, they're the real murderers. More chimeras marched out of the castle. Seeing them, rage filled Soul's entire body, prompting him to charge at the atrocious demon. 10 years later, he's watching Vine fly away, and realizes that the new commander is an old enemy. Back in the Demon Authority's tower, Balam greeted his daughter and asked if she was able to find anything. Instead of answering, she just plops into his embrace, tired from the eventful but unproductive day. She's told to take it easy, and that there's no need to rush. They'll create a harmonious world of humans and demons, and she'll be the hero to make that dream real, his finest creation. It's been 10 years, but Soul hasn't found anything as appalling as the battle with the chimeras. They were surrounded by dismembered and mindless human children, forced to kill each one to save themselves. While they had no choice but to come to terms with it, Balam laughed as he watched them, amused by how easily they stomped his creations to the ground. Dion appeared behind him in the blink of an eye, swinging his blade. Instead of fearing, the demon is fascinated by the sight. He dodges easily while praising the power of the so-called hero. It was impressive for sure, and yet Soul appeared right after him, holding even more untapped potential. They were still young and had much more room to grow. Staring the swordsman in the eye, he says he'll be looking forward to the next time they meet. Currently, that same swordsman was in his home, recalling the horrific memory of their encounter with the chimera. He can't let that young one get close to Mello no matter what. Just then, the child enters the house and is immediately scolded for wandering off on her own. His plans are quickly shattered when Vine follows behind her and comes into his home. She says they ran into each other while taking Gabu out for a walk. This is the first time the two of them are properly introduced to each other. He watched silently while the new girl refused the cookies Mello offered and was eventually force-fed despite it. She spat it out and gagged, disgusted by the taste. Despite their opposite reactions, Sol realized that the Chimera was completely self-aware, unlike the ones they fought before. In fact, she has enough sass to call him out for staring at her. They're told to head upstairs and stay indoors if they want to play. While thinking that they can't risk anyone seeing them with demons, Claude arrived as well. Her eyes meet the Chimera's, and they freeze in confusion for a few beats. Looking at her, she asks if the auditor is one of her father's lackeys. Following Mello's call, she heads up to the cramped second floor to play. Before she could do anything, the auditor finds herself pinned to the wall. She's a skilled fighter, but she couldn't move away from Sol's intimidating gaze, as he accused her of knowing something. For some reason, she was blushing as she asked him what he meant. It's revealed that the girl is Colonel Balon's daughter. This confirms his fears and suspicions. He denies knowing the commander, but guesses that being his daughter must be a headache. In that moment, Claude remembers how Vine sensed something odd the second they entered the city. As such, she speaks to the man with a question of her own. With palpable tension in the air, she frankly asks if he has some connection to the hero. The auditor held her breath while waiting, and like someone with years of experience, he feigned ignorance, even treating her like a weirdo for the question. Pushing it further, he insists that even talking about such things that way is dangerous. Sighing at the out-of-the-world ideas, he suddenly froze upon noticing something. It was awfully quiet. She reasons that the two must be behaving, but as a foster parent, he knows that silence to kids means they're up to something. Sol quickly climbed up to the attic. As expected, he's met with an empty room. There, by the open window, was a letter saying the two had gone out to explore. Fuming with frustration and worry, the adult jumped out of the window to search for them, even leaving the soldier behind. They were making him run around so much, and they just can't seem to understand how dangerous it is for people in the city to see who they really are. In the middle of town, a crowd began to form. A bunch of men glared at the two younglings, malice seeping out their bodies. The two friends flew over the city, with Mello squealing in delight as she clung on to Vine's powerful legs. Hearing her praise, the Chimera acted all haughty, despite obviously finding it difficult to carry a passenger. She scoffs at the child, who's dreamed of flying as she can't even do it normally. It's undeniably inconvenient to not have such a basic skill, but Mello argues that they can at least see the whole city together this way. The odd connection touches Vine's brain somewhere, but the moment is broken, as the inconvenient human asks to stop somewhere for lunch. Fortunately, the demon's stomach grumbled in agreement. They decide to stop by a market after seeing smoke nearby. The streets were filled with food stalls, all offering scrumptious meals and snacks. Skewers, sweets, and endless delicious options surrounded the children. It's Vine's first time experiencing such an environment, and she can't help but gleam in awe while they walk. Just then, someone notices them and calls for everyone's attention, saying a member of the demon army was bothering them, even on market day. As many glared and growled, the Chimera returned their gaze, asking if they had a problem with her. Mello spots someone and interrupts the conversation. She points to a classmate she found nearby, but the boy just stared indignantly at her. The little girl ran to her friend, asking if they wanted to play and eat, but was then asked about her actions. Seething with hatred, the boy questions why she was hanging around with a demon. He repeats his question, now loudly as he pointed at the Chimera. While he hid in fear of how he spoke, Mello paid no mind, sharing how the two of them became friends just yesterday. It was a ridiculous and unbelievable statement, especially one to hear from their kind. Befriending their aggressors was downright wrong. The girl was surprised at first, but happily vouched for Vine's kindness, saying she arrived just a couple of days ago. She's pushed down to the ground, stopped from coming any closer to them. However, this happens right in front of the girl's new friend, who is now overflowing with anger as she questions his actions. A few witnesses are concerned and consider calling the army, but they're sure to side with the demon. The army has dealt so much pain to them. Even if Vine was a demon, she's still just a kid, and can be killed with their own hands. Realizing what was happening, Mello stops them, saying she won't allow anyone to fight. While she approached, the hero's power seeped out of her little body. Vine notices the scent of the hero for a split second again. Flexing her claws, he wonders if her target is among them, unaware that it's her friend. Just then, the men armed with cleavers charged in, but they're all stopped as a stern voice makes everyone freeze. Sasa approached from far away, riding a large demon and asking the citizens if there was a problem of some sorts. Understanding that they're outmatched, they quiet down and deny it. Meanwhile, Vine was whipping her head around, still trying to find the enemy. When she's told that it'd be for the best if they return to the headquarters for now, she also concludes that she can't smell the hero anymore. The wise chimera then hops onto the officer's ride, leaving her little friend behind. Mello stared at her, as if wanting to stop her from going. Although she returned the gaze for a few moments, she turned her head and left the human behind with her own kind. It was just then when Soul came running, exhausted after looking for her everywhere. Finally, she was safe back in his arms. Later on, Vine lounged in the middle of her room, staring at the ceiling while thinking deeply about the things that happened that day. Back then, she definitely smelled the foul scent of a hero. She gets an idea of an undesirable possibility, but a knock suddenly interrupts her thoughts. Balam came to check on her, and asked if the locals gave the young one a hard time. They talk about it for a while, and he feels bad that they can't understand how wonderful she is. It's silent for a while, until the commander brings up the topic of his daughter's new friend, her very first. He says Mello's name with a trace of malice in his smile, and shares that he'd like to meet the child soon to say hello. Mello has been depressed ever since that day. While she walked beside Soul, her footsteps and head were heavy. He recalls his conversation with Claude, where he pressed her for more information on Vine. Unfortunately, she wasn't in the position to say any more that she already had. Negotiating and wanting to know why she was entering the human towns, he's told that she can sense special powers. He pondered over this information for quite a while. Now walking behind his sad child, he suddenly asks that she stop playing with Vine from that moment onward. The girl questions it immediately, not understanding why even he would say that, considering how her friend hasn't even done anything wrong. Considering her position, even if she isn't evil, there's no telling how she might affect her. Standing over Mello, he reminds her that she's just a human, and a child at that. Sensing her feelings, he crouches down to meet her shoulders, saying she belongs in the world of the humans, which is also where her parents are. Sick of it, she argues that she's never even met those people, and doesn't know them. He's struck by her words, more so when she claims that Vine is more important than people she doesn't know. Turning away, she leaves on her own, and says she hates her teacher for not understanding. Soul can't do anything but scratch his head and sigh in resignation, reminded yet again of how much work it takes to raise a child. Mello ran away, questioning why everyone was being so mean, just because some of them are different. What was wrong with being different? Why do they stop her from playing with her friend? With her head filled with these thoughts, she arrives at school like she always does, then overhears a mother asking why her son was such a picky eater. He insists that he doesn't like fish, but hasn't even tried a single bite. If he continues to be that way, he'll never know of something delicious. Their conversation gives Mello a brilliant idea. It takes a few moments for her to connect the pieces, but she eventually does and acts on it right away. Just like that, she ran from school with a smile. She concluded that everyone was being a picky eater, without even knowing anything about Vine. To address that problem, she fearlessly comes to the demon's headquarters to invite her friend to come and play with everyone. While the child proudly stood by the entrance, the guards stared at her, wondering what the brat was doing. Before they could react, she took a deep breath and screamed for Vine, telling her to come out and play. Claude appears and puts a hand over her mouth, questioning what she was doing there. The girl is surprised to find her there as well, but before she could say anything, the auditor carries her away from anyone who might cause trouble. A bit deeper into the woods, she warns Mello that it's dangerous for a human child to wander there alone. Asked about Soul, the child remembers his stern instruction and says she doesn't care about him anymore. After all, she's come all the way there to play with the friend she misses. Claude gently emphasizes how much Soul cares for her. While she whines about being told to stop playing with Vine, Balam appears and joins their conversation. An awkward moment passes as they turn to him. While the auditor falls over in shock, Mello just asks who he is, so he introduces himself as her Vine's father. Confirming that the little girl is her daughter's friend, he thanks her for being so kind, and asks to hear what happened. As she starts to answer, Claude, who had already sensed the probing, tries to stop her, but is told to return to her duties while they talk. The gentle tone turns into a stern order to leave the two of them to talk with each other. His expression brightens up again as she realizes that she has no choice. Successfully getting rid of the auditor, Balam mentions how he knows that someone has been helping Vine get through the mean experiences in town. He asks why she befriended the young one. Mello thinks deeply about it, but to his confusion, says they became close over a cookie. The little girl then retells the story from their snack battle, until the part where adults surrounded them. To wrap it up, she says it was a fun experience. Unfortunately, people keep on saying mean things just because Vine is a demon. She doesn't understand, as someone who just wants everyone to get along. Her words intrigue him. Ignorance is the root of fear, and as someone who isn't fearful, he says she must be clever. Since not everyone is as clever as her, it'll be a problem for the city. Mello is unaware of his methods and wonders what she can do to change their minds. With a sly smile, Balam suggests that she become a chimera, just like Vine is. Satisfaction spread across his face. Hearing the proposition, Mello asks if she'd be able to fly across the sky like Vine. Balam immediately confirms this, even adding that his daughter won't be so lonely if she had someone like her. The little girl's eyes open up with wonder and consideration as he openly thinks about how his daughter might feel. He keeps goading the little child to agree to it, so she remembers the happy times they spent together, along with all the mean things that happened just because she was different. More than her school, the only true friend she's found is Vine, as if they're two of the same kind. If it's a chance to make her happy, then Mello was more than willing to do what it takes. The space between them glowed and swirled, as Balam deemed her a truly kind and sweet child. While all this was happening, Claude was running through the town as fast as she could. She was aware of what the colonel was capable of, as he's famous for chimera creation in the army. It's hard to believe that he randomly took an interest in a human child, so she rushed to Seoul as fast as possible. He's just surprised to see that she was back so early. The officer urgently reports that the commander has taken Mello to the headquarters. Her words hit him like a truck, and he tries to make sense of the current situation. There wasn't much time, so he immediately made his way to where the child might be. There were just a couple of demons standing guard, but no human kid. Considering how she isn't in school either, she really must have been taken by Balam. Claude apologizes for failing to stop it, despite being there when it happened. They can't waste any more time, as the colonel might already be doing something to her body. He asks if the auditor can do anything with the authority she has, but her hands were tied. The colonel, before being a military officer, stood at the very top of demons and ranked leagues above her. Realizing that he really has no choice, Soul makes up his mind. She gasps as she sees a powerful new glint in his eyes. The plan now is to sneak inside and retrieve the child from their clutches. Claude begs for permission to help him, believing that she shares part of the blame for what happened. With his approval, she shares the base's layout, and is told that he has another favor to ask. In the tower, a demon guard lazily does his usual rounds, even yawning as he marches, unaware of the threat that looms from above. He's the first victim of Soul's infiltration. The human was officially in the enemy's halls. Based on Claude's words, Balam has a few rooms he practically lives in. There's a passage to his private quarters, but security is so tight that even she hasn't gone past it. This is easily verifiable by the sheer number of guards stationed in the area. They were all armed and alert, unlike those outside. Right before the operation started, he asked Claude for one last favor. Poking her muscles, he tasked her with smashing one or two buildings out front with her brute strength. He hears the result of the officer following orders, and so do the guards of the passage. They stayed in their posts for now, but a demon came running and reported that the livestock pens collapsed. The beasts were running wild, and they needed help to get things under control. It was a rowdy situation from the description alone, meaning Claude pulled her task off perfectly. With some guards already injured from the raging monsters, the guards run out to help. One of them stayed behind to keep watch, as the next shift was about to start anyway. Left alone, he sighs and feels bad for whoever is in charge of that barn. Little did he know that he was going to suffer a fate far worse. With the last guard dropped to the ground, Soul just had to find the private quarters in one of the chambers up ahead. Trying his luck, he checks each and every room slowly. He finds himself in a dark and gloomy place. The most glaring indicator of his wrong choice is the raging chimera jumping at him. Vine attacked and demanded to know what a filthy human was doing in her room. 3 years ago, in Balam's laboratory, it was just about time for his greatest creation to wake up. One day, the chimera chambers broke open, releasing a girl into her father's embrace. Vine took the very first breath of air in her life, and the demon colonel was there to greet his sweet pride and joy. Still dazed, she stared at the man who called himself her father. Since the day of her birth is extremely special, he prepared a bouquet of flowers to welcome her into the world. Her eyes gleamed with love and joy, unaware of the other demon scientists around them, cleaning the corpses of the other chimeras who weren't as lucky or successful as she was. Now, she found herself locked in a battle against this human, who suddenly entered her room without permission. Soul backed away, cursing his rotten luck, which led him to her room of all places. He tries to gain some distance between them for now, but she has the opposite idea, and is relentlessly charging at him with amazing speed. He barely dodges, even suffering a slight graze on his arm. The attacks kept coming, and while he blocked everything, he was wasting precious time without making any progress. If he doesn't hurry, he'll be too late and won't be able to save Mello from Balam. In this case, he dodges the next attack and swiftly circles behind the young opponent. He strikes her back and drives his blade down, taking the chimera by surprise. Realizing just how much of a threat he is, she avoids the next hit and backed up meters away. She questions how in the world he knows about her weak spot, so he just chalks it up to having tangled with her kind before. What works best on chimeras is targeting their junction points. For her, it's the horizontal line running across her back. He can't help but poke fun at the scary face she was making. But Vine was truly enraged and was determined to kill the awful person at all costs. Apparently, she wasn't even fighting properly before. Their moves more or less cancel each other out, but he was running out of time, and doing too much might alert the commander of what he was doing. Seeing the chimera charge a powerful strike this time around, he has no choice and must gamble it all on a counter. Back in Balan's laboratory, the light of a green chamber illuminated the scientist and his subject. He hummed joyfully while going through the various tools he was going to use. Laid out on the table was Mello, whom he was already singing happy birthday to. Taking it even further, he claims her as his child. The scalpel reaches her neck and he is just about to cut, but he's interrupted by a loud noise from outside. It was quite the commotion, but he sees Vine by the door, seemingly having handled it on her own. Wiping the red off her, she confirms it, saying the intruder has been eliminated for now. Balam admits that he can't stand it when sneaky little intruders manage to slip in, especially when they're natives who've turned violent. It's troublesome, and they need to make everyone accept peace soon. Just then, Vine notices the unconscious girl on his operating table, and questions what she was doing there of all places. He understands that she must be talking about her friend, and shares that the child came to visit her, all worried about what happened the other day. To help them out, he's going to make it so that the two of them can be together forever. His words rang in her head repeatedly. He was going to make another her. As such, she blatantly asks if he was trying to make a replacement for her. The stern and fiery look on her face takes him by surprise, but he quickly laughs it off, stating that no one could ever replace his beloved daughter. Told that he just thought she might be lonely, she states that she doesn't need such companions, even kicking the operating table away. Staring at the human girl on the floor, the chimera says her father belongs to her, and her alone. Neither of them are in need of another her. Balan sees the look on his daughter's face, and understands. Giving her a reassuring pat on the head, he gushes over how adorable her rarely seen selfish side is. He continues to rub her head, but is cut off as a guard enters the room, and reports that all the escaped beasts have been taken care of. While the colonel commended them, Vine stared then turned toward Mello. Surprisingly, she kicks her friend towards the guard, telling him to dump her to a place her eyes can't reach. He's flustered and barely manages to catch the body, but with a stern repetition of her command, he hesitantly confirms the order. To support her, Balan smiles and tells him to keep up the good work, encouraging the demon to leave. Later on, he playfully sighs over how hopelessly jealous his daughter is. Right as she was about to leave, Vine called to him one last time, bashfully admitting that she loves him the most. With a tender expression, he says he knows this very well. The guard follows orders and carries Mello to the forest outside. He sighs at the additional task he received, just when he thought he was done for the day. Freezing and looking around the area, the demon can't help but feel hungry after the long day. How could he dump the food that was right in his arms, as if tempting him for a meal? He had just opened his maw to take a big bite of his treat, when Claude appeared to unleash a powerful kick on his head. While it drives the demon down to the ground, she is finally able to breathe in relief, as she sees that Mello was completely safe and sound despite it all. Now, Soul just had to get back out without running into any problems. As night eventually came, the windows of Vine's room opened. The chimera checked her surroundings for any witnesses, and stealthily flew out into the night. Upon reaching the forest a while later, a voice speaks and calls her out for being late. It was Soul, standing by the trees and tired from all the waiting she had him do. The two of them confirmed that Mello was safe after the demon guard brought her to the forest. Despite their deal, the human wasn't sure if she was going to keep her end. A few hours ago, the two of them clashed. While Vine drove her claws forward, Soul grabbed her arm to show her his face, and remind her that he's her friend's guardian. The memory of Mello calling someone her teacher resurfaces. He then reveals that he's come to rescue the child, whom Balan has captured for himself, mainly for the purpose of remodeling. Augmentation was the process for creating a chimera. Soul asks her to help him save the little one, but why would she do that? To a chimera, humans are pests, and a father is the ultimate existence there is. With that said, she's asked if she's okay with being replaced by another creation. The truth and possibility of that happening seeped into her heart. Basically begging for her help, he offers to tell her about the power of the hero in exchange. Having kept her end of the deal, Vine now demands to be told everything he knows about the hero's power. Told that it's for her and her father, Soul can't help but be impressed by her devotion. Before he speaks, he has one condition she has to fulfill, and that's for her to beat him in a duel. He was just holding a small tree branch, and even with a proper weapon, The thought of losing to him makes the chimera scoff. However, the arrogance doesn't last long, as he releases his energy, which is strong enough to make the wind ripple through the forest. He was brimming with power, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Before she could react, he appeared behind her in the blink of an eye. A quick hit sends her flying. A moment she spends questioning how he moved that fast. While she regains her footing, he shares that he couldn't let anyone notice earlier, but can now let loose in the forest. She summons her energy as well, cursing the human and telling him not to get arrogant. Her empowered claws are swiped hard, but her target was completely gone by the time she was there. As if playing with her, he then appears by her side and plants a knee deep into her gut. While she keeled over in pain, he reminded her of scoffing at the supposedly easy battle. This manages to push her buttons and prompt her to recklessly charge in, questioning just who in the world he is. Perfectly dodging the child's attacks, he blankly brushes the question off. Vine unleashed hit after hit endlessly, but none of her movements even managed to reach him. On the other hand, he swiftly caught her arm and swiped her off her feet, causing her to tumble over the cold, hard ground. She stood back up, gritting her teeth but still eager to continue the fight. However, Soul's branch appeared inches from her eye. Like a man armed with proper weapons, power overflowed from his body as he asked if she's had enough. It was as if a raging and cold beast was staring at her, baring its fangs and ready to kill at any time. Fear coursed throughout her body. The match was over just like that, and she planted herself into the ground in anger, screaming over how she couldn't even beat a mere human. This is unacceptable, for someone who has to be stronger than anyone else. While tears ran down her face, Soul watched in silence until she became calm. With just one question in his mind, he asks how she really felt about Mello. Vine is surprised by the question and says she doesn't care about the girl, who follows her around and calls her her friend. She makes her eat disgusting things, and even though she's a human, she tries to protect a demon from her own kin. She even forces herself between Balam and herself. Thinking about all her precious memories with Mello, Vine calls her irritating to say the least. Soul gets a better grasp of the situation with her reaction and answer. He turns around, haughtily saying that she's just a brat despite her skills. After all, a brat is someone who throws a tantrum because they don't understand their own feelings. The chimera refutes it, calling herself her father's special creation, but he cuts her off, questioning how someone special could lose to a mere human. With her ego hit once more, he orders her to keep her shameful day to herself, at least until she can actually beat him. That is, unless she wants to disappoint her father. Putting their deal on hold for a while, he tasks her with understanding why Mello irritates her so much. Told to consider it homework, she complains about how unfair it is, but that's naturally the case. He's an adult after all. Just like that, the man disappears from her sight, leaving the perplexed demon contemplating her feelings toward her friend. Soul thought his daughter's sentiments were one-sided, but that might not be the case. Regardless, it should keep the chimera quiet. The bigger problem is her power, which he recognized on the spot. Just one encounter was able to tell him that Balam used Dion's corpse as a core for the chimera. Mello is back in her bed and is sleeping peacefully as Soul and Claude look at her. Claude leaves Soul alone with his adopted daughter. The man is stressed that it won't be long until Balam figures out Mello's power. He thinks about moving away, but he hates that this only leads to Mello losing another home and wandering around again. He remembers all the time they did this and how they are doomed to repeat this forever. He pats the little sleeping girl on the head and wonders if he has been raising her right. Gabu, who is lying just beside Mello, looks at Soul and sees how serious his face looks. The next morning, Mello comes down from her room just after waking up. Her mood is great as she sees Claude readying the table for their breakfast. Soul then greets the little girl. Mello remembers how she was angry at him and gets annoyed by his presence. Soul tells her that she needs to come to the backyard after breakfast. Claude tells him that he should not push Mello since she is still recovering, but the man coldly tells Claude that this does not concern her. Later, Mello comes to the backyard where Soul is waiting for her while holding two wooden swords. He gives one of them to Mello and tells the confused kid that she needs to use it to block him. Soul then suddenly hits her on the head. The little girl is angry at him, but he tells her that he warned her to block it with her power. Soul points his wooden sword at her and tells her that he needs to train her for her to survive. He explains that he made a mistake when he told her never to use her power, since she never learned how to control it, and as a result, she would always go berserk with it. He says that he will teach her how to control her power and demonstrate control of his own power by making purple energy cover his body. He then transports all the energy to the sword he is holding and tells Mello to do the same with her sword. Mello closes her eyes to concentrate her energy on her wooden sword. She lets out her golden energy, but it shatters her sword into pieces. This leads Soul to hit her on the head again. He tells her to control her output. The little girl tries it again and again, but it only leads her to be hit on the head over and over. This angers Mello, who focuses her power and wrath on her master. She dashes towards Sol to attack him. Sol tells her that, despite her intense power, without control, she is still full of openings. He manages to dodge her flying kick with ease, and he counters by elbowing her, making her fly and break the wooden structure near them. Sol tells her to take things seriously. Mello comes out of the wooden structure, annoyed but unharmed. She tells her master that there is no way she can control her power. Meanwhile, Balam is in the dark. He is observing a glass of chemicals that he is holding in his hand. Within the container is a single strand of hair. The glass breaks, letting all the chemicals spill. Balam recalls getting the hair sample from Mello. He smiles maniacally at the thought of knowing who Mello is. Claude is at the Demon Army HQ cafeteria, eating her lunch just like the other demons. Her thoughts are on Mello and if she is okay. She stops herself from thinking about it, justifying that she is part of the Demon Army and that she is only staying at the house to study Sol's strength. Balam then appears before her, looking cheerful as ever. Claude is weirded out when the demon colonel puts his arm around her. Balam asks her to do something small for him. Clay does not realize that Balam has just put a crest on her shoulder. Elsewhere, in Sol's backyard, Mello is concentrating while making a sword stance. She brings out her golden power and manages to transport it towards her sword. She is happy to see that she finally did it. Sol then suddenly charges at her. She blocks his strike, but it is so powerful that she is sent flying backwards. Mello gets up crying about how mean her master is. Sol reminds him that she is trying for survival. He puts it in her head that no one will care about her feelings if they attack her, so she needs to never let her guard down. The baffled little girl asks why someone is after her. Sol tells her that while she does not care about her parents, it was still they who gave her her power. He tells her that they use their power to help people and to fight the forces of evil. He also tells her that her power attracts bad people, no matter if she likes it or not, and that the best she can do is to learn to use it well enough to protect herself. He says that all he wants for her is to decide for herself what she uses her power for once she learns how to use it. Mello absorbs her words and concentrates to level out her power again. She makes no progress, so she throws a tantrum about how hard it is to control her power. Sol thinks the girl has done well, considering the short time she has been training, but still worries that Balam will attack at any moment. Mello asks that if her power came from her father, then where did Sol get his power from? Sol thinks about all the times he has gone berserk with his power and hesitates to answer her. Claude then appears and asks Mello to come with her. Just as Mello runs towards her, Sol grabs Claude's hand. He warns Claude that he will not hold back if she plans to take Mello. Claude suddenly attacks with her sword, which Sol only barely dodges. Sol realizes that she is being controlled by Balam's spell. Claude tells Sol that she will show no mercy. Mello is confused as to why Claude is acting so strangely. Sol gets in front of Mello and tells her to stand back. Sol sees the crest mark on Claude's shoulder and realizes right away that he has put her under his spell. After a lengthy battle, Claude is left unconscious, lying on the ground, full of bruises. Sol reviews their battle and how abnormally strong Claude seemed. He realizes that Balam had broken all of Claude's limiters, to the point that they gave her major internal damage. Her controlled state reminds Sol of the mindless chimeras he faced in the past. He asks Mello to get all the bandages, water, and medicine in the workshop, and the little girl complies. Later, Sol wraps all of Claude's wounds in bandages and ties her up. Mello asks if Claude was being controlled by a person who is after her power. Mello cries as she remembers how nice Claude was to her. Sol tells the little girl that this was not her fault, and that the only one to blame is the demon who forced Claude into this. Mello cries as she declares that she will never forgive the culprit. Her tears drop on a flower. She activates her golden power again as she asks Sol to continue training her. She swears to take the person responsible for this down. Balam and Vine are at their luxurious home in the Demon Army headquarters. Vine is wondering why her dad is making his dolls look nice around the place. Balam tells her that it is because the most important thing in his life is about to arrive. Vine wonders with alarm what he means by this. Suddenly, Oz lets Sol and Milo into the room. Vine is uncomfortable seeing Sol again. Balam tells his daughter to show some respect to their guests, since he was the one who invited them. Sol tells Balam that he needs to face the consequences of using Claude. Vine is getting more and more confused, and he asks his dad if he meant it when he said he did not need Mello, since she is the only one he cares about. Balam smiles at his daughter and tells her that Mello is the hero they were looking for. Vine is shocked to hear this. Balam hugs his daughter from behind and thanks her for fulfilling her role of finding the hero. Vine is confused about what her father means by fulfilling her role. Balam then tells her to kill Mello. Vine's vision blurs at the enormity of the order. She pales and sweats as she takes it all in. Sol sees how manipulative Balam still is after all these years and calls him out on it. It makes Vine contemplate if what Sol is saying is true. Looking at Sol right now reminds Balam of who he is, and makes him realize that he hid away the hero's child from them. Again, Balam orders his daughter to attack the hero. Vine powers up as she tells her dad not to order her around. She then charges towards Mello. Mello says she is angry too, and that she will stop Vine if she sides with bad people. She also powers up, leading to a clash between the two girls. Both adults watch the light show of their children's fight. Sol tells Balam that he will not kill him. He powers up and says that it is more satisfying to just crush the smug smile off his face until he can never smile again. Balam only smiles with intrigue. Balam powers up his energy, too, to get ready for battle. Os interjects to tell Sol that he is not worthy to touch his lord Balam. The servant transforms into a hulking, monstrous creature. Despite the transformation, Sol remains calm. Os charges and attacks him, only for Sol to hit him effortlessly in the face and knock him out. It makes Balam want to play with Sol even more. The demon charges up his power again, but this time, the light surrounding him looks denser and more powerful. Sol summons a sword in his hand and closes the distance between himself and his enemy. Balam dares him to make the first move. Sol stabs him with his energy sword. The demon turns out to only be an afterimage, and he appears behind Sol. The man blocks Balam's energy beam and fires an energy beam of his own. Balam effortlessly dodges it. The demon remains calm as Sol circles him. Sol reminds Balam that he told him that he was looking forward to their next meeting. Balam remembers and praises his improvement since then. The demon tells him that he was intrigued by his power back then, since it seems so different from the hero's. As Balam charges an energy beam from his finger, he says that his power looks more akin to that of the demon's. He fires his energy beam, putting a hole through Sol's chest. The injury makes Sol fall to the ground. Balam comments on how he remains weak to this day, and how he failed to avenge the hero and did not even have the guts to die beside him. He judges Sol as a coward and unworthy of being his enemy. Suddenly, Sol's body charges with bright and powerful energy. His energy is so bright that even Mello and Vine stopped what they were doing to look at him. Sol is revealed to be so fired up that his hair is standing. His wound quickly closes up as if nothing happened. Before Balam can see it coming, Sol suddenly punches him on the chest, and then he pins the demon to the ground with a downward energy beam. Balam is left unable to comprehend where his power is coming from. Sol now looks like a monster to him. Sol puts his energy sword in front of Balam. Now, Balam looks scared. Sol is happy to see that his enemy is no longer wearing his smug smirk. Shortly before Sol and Balam clashed, Vine and Mello were having their own clash. Vine accused Mello of deceiving her when she was the hero all along. Mello told her that she did not lie, and all she wanted was to beat up her dad. Hearing her say this angers Vine more. She remembered all the good times she had with Balam, and swore not let anyone take away her dad from her. She told Mello that she would do anything for her papa. Mello paused at her words. She then told Vine that she was weird. Mello explained that she hates listening to Sol. Her words intrigued Vine. Mello continued to say that she never listened when her teacher told her to eat bell peppers or when he wanted her to wake up early. Mello asked her why she always listens to what her father says. Vine remembered her father telling her to fulfill her duty. She had no answer, so she told Mello that she was stupid instead. It led to them calling each other stupid. Their argument stopped as they got interrupted by the light emanating from Sol. They paused at how powerful Sol looked. They saw the man take down Balam with ease. Both girls take a closer look at what is happening. Balam sees Vine and yells at her to kill Mello. Vine hesitates to do it, so Balam gets frustrated and calls her an outdated old model. His words break the little girl's heart. Balam then refocuses on Sol and tells him that he knows that he has been keeping the hero's child for so long, since he intends to present the child to the demon lord in the future to secure his position within the demon army. Balam continues to say that he can create countless chimera models after Mello. The demon offers to team up with Sol so they can present the demon lord an army of heroes instead of just one child. Sol just stares at him. Vine, on the other hand, rushes to her papa and asks what he means when she thought she was supposed to take the hero's place. Balam strikes her and tells her that she was only ever meant as a means to collect data until something better appeared from the start. The hurt child asks if his kindness and love towards her were a lie. Balam replies that her importance was real, but that she is no longer important now. It makes Vine tear up. Vine breaks down as she hears more from Balam, that she has only been created as something to use. Balam twists the knife by saying he does not care about Vine's complaints, since he has already decided she is useless. Vince trembles at the things he says. The angry Mello yells at Balam not say any more horrible things to Vine. Oz suddenly grabs Mello from behind. Balam praises his servant. He then orders Vine to kill Mello while she is unable to move. He tells the girl that he will take back everything he says and really love her if she does it. Vine gets up and takes down O's. She then tells her father that she is sorry for not listening. Balam yells at Vine for being useless. Soul instantly punches the demon in the face. The punch is so strong that Balam hitting the ground creates a crater the size of a house. Soul tells him that there are things he can't say to a child. Even as the man looks so defeated and weak, Vine still remembers her papa treating her like a daughter by celebrating her birthday or being with her when she can't sleep. She then compares these memories to when Balam hit her and told her that her only purpose was to gather data for better models. She cries as she absorbs the pain from the memory. Mello makes a funny face to make her smile. Vine thinks she is being silly, which leads them to arguing about who is stupider between the two of them again. Just as they stare each other down, Vine suddenly starts laughing. She remembers how Mello stood up for her when Balam was saying terrible things to her. Vine holds Mello's hands and thanks her. Meanwhile, Soul wakes Balam up with a slap to the face. He then punches the demon again. Soul then tells Balam to admit defeat. Soul hits him over and over, insisting that he admit defeat and swear to serve him. The more he gets hit, the more Balam recognizes the power flowing through Soul. He believes he has the power of the demon lord himself. Balam goes to his knees to accept defeat and swears to serve Soul. The more Balam thinks about it, the more demon lord-like Soul is. Soul tells the demon that he should never tell the demon what he knows about Mello, and that he needs to stop experimenting on human-based chimeras forever. Balam lowers his head and agrees. Soul also orders him to make amends to Vine. Balam faces Vine and tells her with a smile that he is sorry for everything. The girl sees his apology as hollow and tells him that she hates him. Mello sees Vine in pain and offers for her to stay at his house. Soul tells Vine that it is up to her to decide. Vine looks at her father and thinks deeply about it. Later, Claude is in Soul's house, sleeping on a bed while she recovers. Mello feeds her a pill, which instantly wakes Claude up with a full bill of health. Mello cries with happiness at her recovery. Back at the demon headquarters, Balam asks Vine why she did not go with Mello. The girl says that their house is not her home and that her place is with her papa. Balam replies that outdated models like her are irrational. He thinks about their time holding hands like father and daughter. A demon woman appears before Balam and Vine and acts all casual and friendly. Balam recognizes her as Citri and wonders why she has left the capital, since it is so rare for her to do so. Both demons catch up like they are old friends. Balam sees a child with her and asks who she is. Citri reminds him that she took on 2 humans as her children. She asks that her child introduce herself. The child looks almost doll-like with her clothing and cold stare. The little girl introduces herself as Ollie. Citri asks Balam where her other daughter is. She says that her name is Claude. Meanwhile, Claude is still in bed in pain as she has a nightmare. Her dream is her memory of when she was still a child, practicing swordplay with her sister while her mother and father watched. Claude charged at her sister, but she was the one who got hurt. The little sister pointed her wooden sword at her. It is revealed that the little sister is Ollie and that she looks exactly like she does in the present, but without the cold stare and doll-like clothing. The father praised his daughters for improving their swordplay. Later, Ollie apologized to her sister for getting carried away. Claude told her that she was fine and was just happy to see how amazing her sister was with her technique. Ollie hugged Claude and told her how much she loved her. Claude replied that she meant the world to her, too. One day, the demon army attacked their home. The sisters ran away as fast as they could from their mansion through the forest. Claude told Ollie that they needed to escape since their parents stayed, so they could. Claude assured the crying Ollie that their father would be fine because he is a great warrior who could crush the demon army. Ollie told herself that her sister was right. Claude also assured her that she still had her. Hearing her say this encouraged Ollie. Claude swore that she would protect her sister no matter what. The two run nearer and nearer into a light. Once there, they saw fire everywhere, and Citri casually sitting on a pile of human bodies. Citri saw the two and found them interesting and cute. Claude pulled out her sword to face the demon. Citri threw them a human head. They looked closely to see that it was their father's. Both girls were horrified and screamed. Suddenly, Citri picked them up from behind and told them that she would take them with her. Claude glared at Citri. It led to the demon throwing her. Citri then put her hand over Ollie's face, and the hand started to glow. Ollie screamed for her big sister. The worried Claude asked what the demon was doing. Citri answered that she was making Ollie hers forever. Claude saw the light put her sister into a trance. Claude told herself that she could not rescue Ollie because she was not strong enough. She was unable to get to Claude before she was mind-controlled.